Hi guys, it's Phil from Draw the Trigger, and I've got a deck profile for you today. It's my Spike Brothers Grateful Catapult based deck. This is a new chap who came out in set 10 with the new break rides as well. And I'll show you this deck. This is my current build. It got me to second place in the local Tabletop Tyrant Sunday Vanguard tournament. By the way, you're all invited to come along to that, regardless of where you live. You know, come down. It's on Bedford Street South in Leicester, UK. You can find their website at Gifts for Geeks. I think it's .org.uk or .co.uk. But don't forget to check them out. They also sell Vanguard on their website at a good price. And yes, so I was using this deck down there on Sunday. Did fairly well. I've done a little bit of tweaking, and I've got a few bits where I'm kind of iffy, so I'd like to open it up for discussion. But without further ado, I'll get into it. First up, I'm currently running Babyface Isaac. Now this one in particular is one that I wasn't sure whether I was going to use, because a lot of people aren't too keen on this card. I think it's just because it doesn't do a very Spike Brothers-y kind of thing. It's a standard draw a card, put it into the soul when it hits. It's boosted to grade 3 with a limit break. And so it's not a terrible card. And the reason I run this over, say, Thermidor or Mecha Trainer, it's mainly because draw power is everything for me in this deck. I do tend to struggle a bit getting the hand size, especially with constantly returning stuff to the deck. Even with the Superior Calling, Grateful Catapult, being a Persona Blast, it's quite hard to get the effect of the Superior Calling off sometimes. So it's nice to be able to replenish your hand and being able to just pop him into the soul and draw another card. It's an incredibly useful skill, but I'm sure many of you would argue that you'd still want to run Mr. Mecha Trainer, because obviously he's the same as Conroe for Kagero, basically. You counterblast one, retire him, and search your deck for any grade 1 and put it into your hand. Can be really good. Say you're searching out what's it called? Medical Manager. You might be wanting, I think I'll soul charge. Done. But I'm currently running this guy for that reason. I'll discuss this other guy as well. This is Reign of Terror Thermidor. He's a great starter. Now you call him to your rear guard, not behind the Vanguard because he won't do anything. But basically, he's a 5k, and when he boosts a Spike Brothers normal unit, so not a trigger, when he boosts a normal unit, he gives that unit, or he can give that unit, plus 3k, being an 8k booster, basically. And at that point, after the battle, the unit that gets the boost is returned to the bottom of the deck. So yeah, I was using this for a while, and it's pretty good. But it can result in you unnecessarily emptying your field, because it's very tempting to go for that plus 3. And it just... I can't decide whether or not I want to run him. I think I might take him in depending on who I know I'm going to be playing. But obviously in a tournament you stick to one starter. But yeah, I'd like to know what you used as your starter here, because it's quite a personal decision as to how you play the deck, I believe. But yeah, that's that. Now I run 4 of these Cheerful Links, the draw trigger. Obviously you want to run your 4 draw triggers in a deck like this. You can't really do without them, particularly as, I don't know about elsewhere where you are, but in our current local meta, you need hand size, because when you fight, it's going to end up with a huge hand at some point. It just seems to be the case where Hand Wars is the story right now. So draw triggers are essential. Unfortunately, they've only got 1 draw trigger so far. I would definitely run 6 if it was available. Next up, I run 4 of this chap. This is the Silence Joker. He's a critical trigger, and he's got the skill from the rearguard activated ability, put it into the soul, and basically to unflip a damage. This can be quite useful if you need to use Catapult skill one more time. You've got the Persona Blast, but you haven't got the damage to unflip for it. This guy can fix that. However, most of the time you'll use him to guard. And, of course, the other critical trigger, Sonic Breaker, 4 of those. And there's 4 Cheer Girl Tiara, standard heal trigger, no ability, 5k, you'll only use it to guard. In my grade 1 lineup, I run a single Dudley Dan. Main reason being I can superior call him fairly easily with other cards in the deck, and I really don't want to run too many of these because he is a 4k grade 1. If you ride this guy on your first turn and then you get a bunch of attacks coming at you, you don't want that to happen. That is nasty. Here's one of the arguments for running Mecha Trainer, because obviously you can search him out dead early, get him behind the Vanguard, and then you can counterblast and do your superior call fairly easily. However, he is quite expensive with a counterblaster too. I use it in extreme circumstances, and you, like I say, you definitely don't want to ride this guy. Next up, I run 3 Wonder Boy, standard vanilla 8k. Can't go wrong with a Wonder Boy to boost. If you're putting him behind a Juggernaut Maximum, you're hitting 19. If you do Juggernaut Maximum's thing, you're hitting 24, which is going to make a cross ride, throw down a 15 shield. Just, you know, it's just a useful card. Stick it behind a 9k and you're hitting 17. So, you know, useful. I run 2 of these new chaps, Dudley Phantom. This guy, basically, he's a 6k, but when he boosts a Spike Brothers unit, he gains plus 4k, which turns him into a 10k booster, but then immediately he goes to the bottom of the deck, as you can see there. So, again, if you just want a big booster, he's very useful. It even works, I believe, boosting the Vanguard. It's when it boosts the Spike Brothers. Yeah, so you can throw him behind the Vanguard for a big attack. Throw him behind a Juggernaut Maximum to get a 26k column. He's pretty useful. Again, I'm not going to run a lot of them because he is a 6k and you don't want to ride a 6k. I run 2 Dudley Daisy. If you run out of soul and you need people who can hit hard when you superior call them, Dudley Daisy is your lady. She comes out from the deck, onto the rear guard, counterblast 1, plus 5k, you got yourself a 12k. If you've done it on a Baron Dragger turn, she's attacking for 22 on her own, which is fantastic for a grade 1. Not much else to say really. She's a 7k, so you don't mind riding a card like this. Plus, of course, she's quite cute. And I run 2 medical managers. This guy is, when you put him on the rear guard, you soul charge 1. Very useful if you're running Dudley Emperor, because you want to be able to do that soul blast thing. And of course, he's great for high speed bracky and what have you. Only problem being, random soul charging is quite nasty because you often end up with a heal trigger going in or a crit, which you don't usually want, or even a perfect guard, which is horrible. So at the moment I run him at 2 and I only get him out normally if I need him with a superior call. But in a worst case scenario, he's a 7k booster. You can't really go too far wrong. But like I say, I'd run 4 in another build, but not in the catapult build. And for perfect guards, I've only got 1 of the new artwork, which is absolutely brilliant compared to the old one. The old one's not bad, but the new one's just a lot cuter there. And yeah, there's not a lot else to say about perfect guards. Run them. Currently running 3 pieces of Fierce Leader Zachary. I was running Blowkiss Olivia on Sunday, but I have since switched it out for Zachary. Mainly because Blowkiss Olivia, in case you don't know, she is a Soul Blast of 2 upon hitting a Vanguard. Is it just a Vanguard? I think it's a Vanguard. She Soul Blasts 2 and you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards. That's quite useful, but Soul Blast 2 is expensive and people generally guard it. and I've found that this guy is a little bit more useful. If he hits, he hits a Vanguard, you only Soul Blast one, and then you can draw a card and return this unit to the deck. So again, it's getting that hand. It's the draw power. That's what he's there for. If you've done a Bad End Dragger Grateful Catapult run, you call these to rear guard and you do that. You've got 2 attacks of 19k, and if each one of those hits, then you can draw 2 cards out of it, which replaces them when they go back to the bottom of the deck. And not a lot else to say, really. Very useful to come into early game as well. It only works from the rear guard, but if you've got him there on your second turn of it or first turn of attack, you do that. It's a lot harder for people to guard early game, and it can do some nasty damage. So, yeah, that's that guy. I run 4 of this new card, Dudley Mason, another set 10 card. This is one of my favourite cards from the latest set, and I'll show you why. He's a 9k grade 2, and he's got the ability of Counterblast 1 and choose a Spike Brothers from the hand and put it into the soul. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a Spike Brothers Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 Spike Brothers, call it to an open rear guard, and shuffle your deck. That is incredibly useful. It works from the Vanguard circle for a start. So if you've ridden this guy, you attack. You've probably got a Wonder Boy or something behind, so you're hitting 17,000 to 22 with a trigger. That's got a very high likelihood of hitting. At which point you say, okay, I've got another counterblast there, so I think I'll Superior Call another Dudley Mason, or you might Superior Call a Fierce Leader Zachary, or even a Juggernaut Maximum. You kind of do it depending on how the current game is going. You might choose to do a Dudley Daisy or a High Speed Bracky, because it soul charges one as it works. You're basically getting a free round of a Bracky attack. So you're hitting 14k for literally free. Apart from the counterblast. And yeah, he works from the Vanguard and Rearguard. I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't run this guy. It's just perfect for the Spike Brothers. Last of the grade 2s is 3 pieces of High Speed Bracky. Again, it used to run it at 4. Dudley Mason and Fierce Leader Zachary kind of eat into his room. Plus, you're going to be Superior Calling him, returning him to the deck. Superior Call him, returning to the deck. The chances of him ever getting retired or attacked are incredibly slim, because he's not going to stay on the board long enough to be attacked. He's literally going to be a hit and run. So you can afford to kind of only run a few of these. You're hitting 9k or 14k. Or if you've got Bad End Dragger, it's going to be 19 or 24. You know, it's just a fantastic card. And it's only 2k less than Juggernaut Maximum. So, you know, you don't even need to call out a Juggernaut in most cases. Bracky will do the job extremely well. Onto the grade 3 lineup. I run 4 Bad End Dragger. Now his skill... Let's get him in there. When he's boosted by a Spike Brothers, he gets plus 2k, so he hits for 13 when he's boosted. And his Break Ride ability is when a Spike Brothers rides this unit, your Vanguard gets plus 10, and the rule that when a Spike Brothers rearguard attacks, it gets plus 10k until the end of battle. At the end of the battle, put the unit on the bottom of the deck. So, what does that really mean in game? You have the Bad End Dragger there, and you do that. Say you have these two there. So this guy is attacking for 23 with a boost on top. And then this one would be attacking for 21, and that one would be attacking for 21. And then, obviously, at the end of each battle, boom, on the bottom of the deck. What makes it great is if you have Bad End Dragger and ride something that can Superior Call, whether it's a Catapult or a Dudley Emperor, you can basically attack with the rear guards boosted by 10, put them on the bottom of the deck, then attack with your Juggernaut or Catapult, Superior Call 2 more to the rear guard, and those ones still get the plus 10k. So you can end up with 4 attacks on top of the Vanguard boosted by 10, which can really, really force a lot of shield out of your opponent. If they haven't got perfect guards, then they can basically be expecting to drop around 100k worth of shield if they want to let nothing through. it can be absolutely devastating. The only issue I have with this guy is if you have to break ride the break ride, it's a little bit underwhelming. Yes, he gets his +10 and the rear guards get +10, but then you're going to literally empty your field with no way to replenish it, which isn't really what you want to be doing. You kind of have to ride something else on top of it. So I still run 4 because I need to get this guy out, because he is what the deck hinges on for damage. But it can be a risk to run 4 of these. Next up, I run 4 Grateful Catapult. Has to be 4 because it's a Persona Blast. His skill is you basically Counterblast 2, Persona Blast from the hand, and then you can Superior Call 2 Spike Brothers when he attacks, call them to open rear guard. Specifically open rear guard, you can't override to rested unit with it, which is why you really want to use stuff like Bracky or Juggernaut before you use this guy's skill. Either that or you use Baron Dragger to clear the field ready for your new Superior Called units. Yeah, the only real issue with this guy is obviously being a Persona Blast, you're limited to a maximum of 3 uses, and that's assuming none gets put into the damage check, into your damage zone or drop zone through various effects, and it can be quite difficult to get the guy out. You will have games, regardless of how good you are, where you just don't get the skill off because you'll be like that. It's like, oh, you get hit, damage check, no damage check, no damage check, no. That's totally happened to me, which is a sad turn of events, but it's the risk you take with this deck. You don't have that kind of risk with a Dudley Emperor, but what Dudley Emperor obviously requires you to do is soul charge 2 from the hand in order to do the Superior Call. So I like this in that it doesn't mill through your hand quite as badly. It leaves you with stuff to guard with. You're only losing a grade 3 out of your hand, which isn't really a big deal. So it might happen less, but when it does happen, it's a bit safer. Plus he's an 11k Vanguard, which is always helpful for the defending side of things. Lastly, I run a single Juggernaut Maximum, mainly because you can search him out. You don't want to ride the guy because he doesn't do anything from the Vanguard circle. You can seek him out, put him on the rear guard, and he's got his usual Soul Blast of 1 to gain plus 5k. He's an 11, as are all the grade 3s in this deck. So yeah, he's hitting for 11 or 16 or 21 or 26. And he's brilliant, really. I mean, if you team him up with Dudley Phantom and Baron Dragon, you got yourself, you know, a 36,000 column going there. Which, you know, you better perfect guard that. I'd like possibly to run 2, but I don't really want to lose a break ride or a catapult, and I really don't feel comfortable running 10 grade 3s in a deck. It's just a little bit on the wrong side of imbalanced for me. I know some people have tried it and some people do it, but I personally would not. So that's my Spike Brothers deck. Sorry this video is running on a little bit long. I've been discussing it quite in depth, I think. Hopefully this has been interesting for you. I'd love to know what you thought of this deck, what this particular build could perhaps benefit from. Or if you've got any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. And if you'd like to fight me with this deck, like I say, we're down at Tabletop Tyrant pretty much every Sunday. Check them out. Come on down. You're all invited. And yeah, post your comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!